Welcome to Heal the World Show podcast, brought to you by the Healing Institute. I'm Parmelia Parham. I'm the founder and the CEO of the Healing Institute. We are an online worldwide hub of holistic practitioners. We really want to make a difference with health and healing in the world globally. All of our practitioners are amazing. They really get to the root cause of what's going on with people. And, I think that is so very important because we've had a medical model for the last 50 years that hasn't done that. They only looked at symptoms. They didn't look at what the root cause was. So I invite you to engage with all of our practitioners. Everyone has a 30-minute complimentary consultation. They can have a chat, see if it's a good fit, because that's what we're all about. We want to make sure that we can help you the best that we possibly can. So the Healing Institute, I call it an institute because I'm passionate about educating people around health and healing. And we aren't yet providing courses, but one day we will be. That's why it's called an institute, because I am so passionate about educating and education around health and healing. And there is so much information out there that we try to break that down. Why did this happen? Why was the Healing Institute created? For one reason, it happened just after we were all locked down for the pandemic. And I just kind of had a divine moment where I really felt that we needed to have something to reach out to people. So I do say I feel like I was divinely led to create this company. And also because of my own personal experience when my mom passed away at a very young age. So she was only 61 and was due to complications because she'd been on a medication for a very long time. And not once did her doctor ever suggest that they have a check and check to see if this medication was affecting her kidneys. So unfortunately, she died on December 15th, right before Christmas. I was 5 months pregnant with my son. And I say that it's not only a tragedy that she died at such a young age, but my children didn't get to meet their grandmother. And I think that that's a tragedy that I don't want any other families to have to go through. So that's my passion. That's why the Healing Institute and health and healing and education is so important to me. And then I created the podcast, Heal the World Show podcast, because I really was meeting online all these amazing people who were helping with health and healing. And so this actually is our 136th episode. I've been doing this for nearly 3 years. And this month I decided for June that it was going to be Men's Health Month. Now, this is the third year in a row that I've done June Men's Health Month. And so I decided to invite a couple of men every week to come and join me and talk about men's health, which I think it's so very, very important. And so today you're going to meet two amazing men. Drew Deraney is a caregiver mentor for families and healthcare workers. And Dan Simon is an executive leadership consultant, speaker, and certified coach. So welcome, gentlemen. So wonderful to have you both on the show today.
Nice to see you, Parmelia. Nice to see you, Dan.
Yes, same here. And Drew, I enjoyed our conversation in advance of the podcast today. So I'm excited
As
to
did I.
I'm
partner
so
with you
glad
on
that you
this.
were able
Yes.
to connect. That's fabulous.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Okay, Drew, I'm going to start with you
sure.
because I know that we've talked in the past about this, and you had sent me some ideas of what we want to talk about today. And
hmm
this topic, I think, is so very important, called the silent struggle, breaking the stigma around men's mental health, suicide, and the power of self-care. So tell us a little, first of all,
Absolutely.
before you hop into that, just
Yeah,
tell us a
yeah.
little bit more about the work about you yourself and what you're doing.
I'm a father of three children, 24, 22, and 20. They're my life. I don't remember time without them. Also divorced, single parent, and I was in healthcare for 24 years, working in hospitals. And I branched out on my own back in 2019. was started helping men on self-awareness. And then my oldest son, who's got autism spectrum disorder, had a rough 2024. So I took time off to be there for him and take care of him. And in turn, I burned out. So I suffered from caregiver burnout. And so when I came back to my business, I really wanted to help caregivers avoid burnout, prevent burnout, or attack the symptoms and find out the root cause of their burnout. And the whole key is supporting those providers who really give everything and they don't know how to receive.
And they don't give to themselves.
They don't give to themselves. No. And with an empty bucket, it's hard to keep going.
Yeah, that is so true. Yes.
Yeah. So that's a little about me and what I do and why I do it, and burning out myself. And I'm still in the burnout phase. I find myself a couple steps ahead of my clients. If I'm driving, I'll drive into the pothole and then I'll reach out the window and wave to everybody around because here's the pothole. So I'm really fresh in it, and I don't want to just keep it to myself because when you isolate yourself and don't share, it's really not helpful or healthy. So that's why I do what I do.
And your experience is so, it's just so true to who you are. And when you have that real life experience, people I think are more inclined to, well, first of all, believe you. And secondly, any kind of advice that you might have or suggestions you might have for them not to have that burnout.
Right.
They're going to take that more to heart, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Drew, I would say, I mean, look, your vulnerability, even our first conversation, is endearing. I think that gives part of the reason why you're so successful at what you do is because you're not checking boxes on a list. You're going through every individual experience, comparing it to your own, and that empathy is really, I believe it's part of your success. So yeah, keep driving through those potholes, Drew. I mean, on purpose.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's enough of them out there.
For sure.
Well, and thank you, Brene Brown. Vulnerability is not a weakness anymore; it's a strength.
No.
I mean, it always has been, but
Right.
it's been perceived as being a weakness.
Right.
So
Especially in men.
Yeah, so important.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to acknowledge that we have one of our practitioners in the Healing Institute on in the back room. We call it the green room. Marie Pivlik. Marie is an amazing coach for mostly women around burnout. And also she's a fantastic breathing facilitator. And so she's just made a comment here saying, I heard the saying, your wisdom is your experience, and that is such a gift. So true. Definitely. Our wisdom is a gift. And I agree with you, Drew. We need to share it with other people. So not keep it to ourselves because then it's not a gift. We need to receive it and then give it away. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about some of the clients that you work with.
Well, I like to say my ideal client is me. I'm a single father. I'm also in that sandwich generation where I have an 89-year-old mother and my son who's got special needs. So I have a responsibility and I'm accountable to be there for both of them. And I believe I'm always have to be on. There are times I want to be off, and that's where the self-care piece comes. But most of my clients are similar to me, mostly men, although I do help women. And when I help men, I help the women in their lives too. But it's mostly men who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s. They're in a position of caring for either a parent or a special needs child. It doesn't have to be a special needs child. It can be any, especially if you're divorced. But men who excel in their professional life, and they come home and they don't have as much confidence at home caring for others as they do in the workplace. And so those are really the clients who gravitate towards me and who I like to work with.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I know the work that you do is amazing. And especially also with the caregivers in the hospitals and the
Mhm.
and medical community who get
Right.
burnt. That's such a, you know,
Well, that's the thing. Most coming from the healthcare industry, most of those providers don't see themselves as caregivers. They get paid to provide.
yeah,
Yeah, that's okay. You can get paid to provide, but there's a cost to providing and not caring for yourself. So that's why I lend support for providers. You could be either in your own life, but if you even in your work life, because there's no to me there's no such thing as work life balance. It's
no,
blended, and if you don't take care of yourself and work, it's going to spill over to your personal life and vice versa.
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I definitely want to help more nurses and doctors if they have the willingness and ability to allow me to help them.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Beautiful. I'm so I'm so delighted that you're doing that kind of work because it's so very important. And there has been such a stress on all our healthcare workers
Mm,
during the pandemic and since the pandemic, there's just
right.
been that huge amount. Maybe it was there before and we just, maybe personally I wasn't aware of it.
Hmm.
But I
Hmm.
know more and more people are talking about it, which is always good.
Right.
Let's have a conversation. Let's get this out in the open and actually then we can make some changes.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
I
Thanks,
think
Dave.
something, if I just jump in for a second, Drew, something we talked about,
Yeah.
and you had mentioned in our conversation is that idea of giving yourself permission, right, to be vulnerable in that sense,
Mhm.
especially if you're in a
Absolutely.
leadership position.
Hmm.
You just constantly, as you said, you can't pour out of an empty cup, right? And so, how many times you're just giving and giving and giving, and you feel like I can't allow myself to
Mhm.
come down at all because so many people are depending on me. Right. I
Hmm.
remember
Hmm.
telling you this story of one time when I was a high school principal and we had lost a student.
Right.
And, my concern at the time was taking care of all my staff and my students and just everybody, and so it became in our culture, I was just taking care of everybody. And we had a guest counselor from another building who came in to assist. And at one point just stopped me and said, you know, it's okay. You don't have to be Superman. It's okay for you to show up. And I remember just that was the moment that the dam broke for me. Like I had been
Yeah.
so busy taking care of and providing the care for everybody else that it just never dawned on me that I maybe
Right.
needed that as well. So that's
Yeah.
why I love the work that you do, Drew. It's so
Yeah.
important. And you have to just allow yourself to, again, permission to be vulnerable. It's
Mhm.
not, familiar, you said it, it's not a sign of weakness.
No,
It's actually a
Right.
sign of
Yeah.
strength to be able to admit that.
It is.
absolutely.
Thank you, Dan. And it's about self-awareness. And many men, especially, aren't really self-aware because they've been told just plow through it, provide, do, and don't give time back for yourself. Don't ask for help. Don't show emotions. So it's important to get rid of that stigma because a lot of men. I mean, I'm big on. I want to reduce the male suicide rate in this country. And, when you put people in isolation or when you isolate yourself and you don't have a strong connection with human beings and you feel alone, that's a lot of the reasons why they die by suicide.
Mhm. And a couple of things, Dan, that you said that really sort of what you were unpacking was two things. One, leadership. Okay, I think we're looking at leadership a little bit differently now. And as you were mentioning, you felt that you were the principal, you had to lead, you had to look after your students, you had to look after your teachers. And now I think we're looking at leadership more as a community and a collaboration, not that just one person is the one that's doing the leading and everybody else is going to follow and do what they say. And again, also, as a male, you felt that that was important for you to step in right away and make sure. Now you were in a leadership position as a principal, but also, you needed that person, that other person to kind of tap you on the shoulder and say, okay, what self-care have you done for yourself, Dan? You're looking after everybody else in the school, and what have you done for you? So yeah, I think that is so very important. So let's hop into talking with talking about some of the work that you've been doing, Dan, and maybe give a little intro as to your experience in public and private education, and then some of the work that you've been doing with your clients.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and thank you for the opportunity to join you and Drew here in this conversation. So married for what will be 33 years this summer. Six
Congratulations.
children. Thank you. Six children, eight with I don't even, I know we have at least one more on the way. So we've been blessed with a number of grandchildren. Wife's been an incredible partner through so much of the journey that I've been on and still on in terms of the answering the question of what do I want to be when I grow up. And I spent 30 plus years as a school leader, as a principal and a superintendent. I'm a very relational, very culture driven, very connection and communication, so critically important to me. And I used to believe that you could have more impact on students the higher up that you moved in your
Mm,
position.
mhm.
And I found that when I got to a kind of the pinnacle of educational leadership as a superintendent, I found that I was actually very unhappy in the
Yeah,
role. And it was actually quite simple. I mean, I didn't love the politics. I didn't love a lot of things about it, but quite honestly, it was the fact that I got into education to be with kids and
yeah,
to have a relationship with kids.
yeah,
When I got to a superintendency, I got away from
yeah.
kids. And so
That's what
it
happens.
didn't make any
Yeah.
sense to me. And so I spent my first 25 years in public education, got briefly into a charter school, founding a charter school, and then God pivoted me into Christian education in a way
Mhm.
only He could. Just circumstances that led me somewhere, then have never looked back. And in that time, I opened my own LLC in coaching and training, and whether that be group or individual
Mhm.
leadership. And I also started to work in the lane of adolescence. It had been my whole life, my
Beautiful.
whole career.
Right.
And so I started I had a mentor that taught me a lot of the college application uh, lane, specifically in training. And what I found was that if I liked that and I could do that, what I was really more interested in was helping the kids who had no idea what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
So, the
Then,
college bound kids are, I think, always going to find somebody who can help them. But the kids who are lost, right, are the ones who need a coach, who
yeah,
need an advisor.
definitely.
And so that's what I find myself really content doing now. And I have also shifted that into focusing specifically on military connected youth, because between deployments and between
Mhm.
losing a parent as a Gold Star family, there's a great void there of guidance in this way, particularly for adolescents. And so
Right.
that's where my work is primarily these days, and it's a blessing to be able to help these families, and particularly these teenagers, find their way.
That's beautiful. I love that because that's so very, very important. As you said, kids that are on the college, university fast track, they've got, they've either got their support system, their parents or teachers or whoever. And so they kind of know, at least in the beginning, they know what route they're going. But other children other students that don't know what they want, they haven't yet determined even what their own skill set is. And so whether that
Right.
could turn no, people are now starting to ask, I think, when their career counseling is, well, what do you like to do? We've never ever thought that we could create a career over what we like to do. It
Well,
was,
what's interesting with that also is I coach for the Honor Foundation, which is one of many organizations that help transition retiring military into civilian
mhm,
leadership.
mhm.
And it's really not that different from working with a 17-year-old in the sense that
Yeah,
these are leaders who have been in kind of one lane for a while, doing something that they are really good at, and it's all they've known. And when you ask the question, what do you want to do? What do you like to do? It's almost like starting over
yeah,
again. because they haven't had the opportunity to even think about that question for quite some time. So it really does come down to, my work is, I've added vocation to college and career because
Oh,
there
you're cutting
are,
out just a
it
bit.
is,
If you could
all
just say
right.
that again, you were just cutting out a little bit.
Oh, am I back?
You're back.
Am I back? Sorry. Am I back?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, sorry about that. So just quickly end that thought is I added vocation to the college and
Mhm.
career piece because sometimes what we're passionate about aligns
Yes.
food on the table, but sometimes doesn't. And so we still have to be able to find that thing that fulfills us to do maybe separately from what we do to make a living. And that's a part of the conversation I have with not only with the adults, but also with the teenagers to be preparing for that as they move into the journey of adulthood.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that. Um, so Maurice made another comment here that I didn't quite see until now. She says she notices that caregivers in her own sphere often forget themselves and say that's their purpose and what gives them meaning, and yet they are depleted. So I think we can have that we can experience that in many different areas, whether people who are in the leadership roles, people that are in the caregiving roles, um, are not now looking for ways to fill up their cup,
Mhm.
and so they are becoming depleted, which is then not our physical health gets aligned doesn't get aligned with who we are and what we're doing. It's so important. And of course, the work that I do as a body code, emotion code practitioner, people come to me, my clients are looking at why am I not either physically, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually feeling like I am who I am. So we look at the physicality because it's your physical body that's going to be talking to you and letting you know if something's not quite right. And I don't think over the years we've ever been coached or talked to or taught to actually listen to our bodies when they're speaking to us until it's too late because our bodies are speaking to us and we're not listening. And then they ramp up. That's like they're starting to shout now. You're not listening to me. So now I'm going to give you a pain in your back, or I'm going to give you a pain in your knee, or I'm going to do something that you're really going to take care. You're going to listen. Now you're going to take notice of. So that's yeah, very, very important for us to remember to always be listening to our bodies. Well, I love the work that you're doing, Dan, because this is what's so very important, I believe, has been for many years, but now there's more conversation about it. Now more people are talking about it. We know that the suicide rate in men and young men is very, very high in both our countries. I'm in Canada, and you are both of you are in the US, but we know that that is getting higher all the time. And
Mhm.
so there is something not right, something that needs to be changed in order for us to reach the people that need the guidance and the support.
Right. Yep. There's a statistic 85% of physical ailments are due to unaddressed internal stress, and that's men and women combined. And I think societies helped women address those a lot better than men, because when women self care, it's not considered a weakness. Yet when men do, it is. And I think that needs to be changed. And I think you know. It's important
Exactly.
for, well, you know what?
Absolutely.
It's important for when you talk about purpose. And I think a lot of people pleasers and caregivers are are really people pleasers.
Mhm.
I say I'm a reformed people pleaser. I'm really working at it because it's unhealthy. But when we look to our purpose, we always look to the outside.
Yeah.
Or we look to our value, we look to the outside, or our self identity, we look to the outside. And I mean, I always prided myself in my identity was a husband and a professional healthcare worker, and I lost both in 6 months when the divorce, and I got lost my job, and then I didn't know who I was. Well, that's happening to a lot of men, whether they come out of the military, the police force, CEO at a company. All of a sudden, if they leave and they're doing the next part of their life, they don't know who they are because they were equating and aligning what they were doing with who they are. So I am a proponent of finding your purpose from within.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely. So
yeah.
important. And for us to have that, I don't know if I what it's for us to know that we need to look at that because you're right, Drew. We look at how we're showing up in the world, whether it's our purpose. We're looking at how people see us, not how we see ourselves. And I know 20 years ago, when I was going through my upset in life, I know intuitively, thank goodness, I knew I had to go in. I had to look and find out who Pamelia really was. Because, I had a career. If you saw me from the outside, you think my life was perfect. It was far from perfect. Because I wasn't happy. All of a sudden, I was like, oh my gosh, all my things that I had did not make me happy. So I had to look in and see exactly what was going on. And when we talk about purpose, I love that word. I always thought my purpose was to be a good mother, to be a good wife. And then I read a book that someone I knew had written, and it was about a purpose, but it was about an individual purpose. It was about who you were and what is your purpose. How do you see yourself as your purpose? And that just totally opened my eyes to that I could be something other than just what people expected me to be, such as a good wife and a good mother. So I think that's so important for us, the word purpose, for people to really dive into what their purpose is. And it might not be what they think it is. It may not be the career that they've had for the last 20 years. It may not be the relationship that they're in. It may be something completely different, but still so very important to be looking inner, because then that's when we can always then define who we are from the inside. It's an inside job, right, gentlemen? It's an inside
Yeah,
job.
well, I would say to that the very again a very common strategy with both the military guys that are leaving with an adolescent that's trying to figure it all out is just trusting that instinct. I mean, I'll go from a faith perspective, right? I'll trust that instinct that God is opening a door for
Mhm.
you potentially, and the idea that I, I don't know if for sure if this is what I'm being called to do, but not waiting until you have 100% absolute certainty, but taking a step of faith, right? And
Yeah.
then, as I always like to say, like going through the door that's cracked open, right? And then either you see the door flung wide open, and with great clarity this is it, or I always say, I hope it doesn't get slammed on me, right? But that the door gets closed to know, all right, look, I see that you're being obedient now to kind of the spirit led direction. Um, but that's not the door. There's another door over here,
Yeah.
and then following that. But it's experiencing things. It's trying things. Like I will never encourage a student to go into a major of any kind unless they have first dipped their toes in it,
Yeah.
shadowed, interned, something to get that experience. And it's no different for these, 40 something, 50 something year old men coming out of the military who they want to try something different. Well, why? Why? And are you sure? And maybe you read about it and it pays well, but where is the fulfillment and the satisfaction going to come from? Try it first. All right. Try it first. And
Absolutely.
that to me, that life experience is what's always going to confirm or reject the idea of that direction.
I love that, Dan. That is just so profound because we do need to then look within to see whether or not And I like your analogy of the door cracked open, because yes, it could be an opportunity. And then we do a little bit of research and we find out that, well, maybe that's not exactly what we want. So there's always another door. I believe that for sure. Marie's made another comment here. I think that the only purpose that lasts is the one from within. And that is, I truly, truly believe that is we have to know ourselves. And that's where both of you, Drew and Dan, are helping people actually become aware of who they are and how they can fit into this new world. Because there's a lot going on in this new world, and we're now the AI whole issue is now coming up, and we need to be prepared. So thank you both for being on the podcast today. This has just been so delightful. We have a big why as the Healing Institute, and we have a big ask. Our motto is service with love. And so we would ask for people who are listening to the podcast or watching it, to please let your community know, let your family, let your coworkers, let your colleagues, let everybody know about the Healing Institute and our amazing practitioners that we have, that are here to help you on your healing journey. And let's face it, we're all in a health journey. So let's make it a proactive one. And I am thoroughly delighted. Today, you got to meet two more amazing men, Drew Deraney and Dan Simon. Thank you, gentlemen. So wonderful to have you on the podcast today.
Pleasure. Thank you, Pramila.
Yeah, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it. And again, Drew, this won't be the last time we speak either, I'm sure.
No, I'm sure, Dan.
Wonderful.